matter, which is self-compassion. But first, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Fawzia Sultan Healthcare Network for their tremendous effort in working with us hand in hand to raise mental health awareness. Tonight, our guest is Dr. Aisha Kamal, clinical psychologist with Fawzia Sultan Healthcare Network and founder of She Is Fierce organization. Tonight, we will dig deep into the concept of self-compassion. What does it mean? How can it impact our lives? And there's a question I'm sure all of you have in mind, which is, and I'm asking this to you, Dr. Aisha, why do we always see compassion as a bunch of uploadable qualities, such as like kindness, empathy, sympathy? But when it comes to self-compassion, we always associate it with the words, the bad word that come with self, like self-indulgence or self-pity or self-serving. So we would like to hear from you about this matter, and we need to have a clear vision on how are we going to practice self-compassion on ourselves.
Those are some great questions. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so happy to be here and speak with you, and of course to work with Huna so closely, because you're just promoting mental health awareness and making this platform available, to everybody to attend. So thank you for that. And moving on to the questions, there's so many different aspects to self-compassion, and you're right, you honed in on that one word, self, which somehow makes people a little bit apprehensive, that if I start thinking about myself, that means I'm being selfish, right? And then automatically it takes on a more negative tone. And then people start to feel a little bit guilty that, wait, should I be nice to myself? If I'm nice to myself, then maybe I'm not being nice to other people. Like, we see it as one or the other. However, as you mentioned, compassion is something that we've almost been taught to practice from a very young age. If you think back, for me, way back to when I was in school, and, I'm taught that I should share with other people, I should be kind, I should be patient. And these are all amazing qualities. It's not that we should forget that. But when we're younger, we're told this by older people, and we look up to them for guidance, for knowledge. And somehow I think as we grow up, we maintain that connection. And we think that if somebody else, we want to put their needs above ours, because when we were growing up, we were told that we should listen to our elders. We should listen to what others are saying. I think that at some point when we do become adults and independent, we kind of forget that we are now responsible for ourselves. We actually don't need to answer to even our parents or other figures. Like, we have our own mind. We can make our own decisions. And this is one part I think that we don't talk about enough. So we still default to thinking, well, let me put somebody else first. What are others going to say? And that's when we put ourselves second. And yeah.
Most societies, not only us, most societies still seem to believe that if we aren't blaming or punishing ourselves for something, that we are definitely doing something wrong. And this is really scary.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's this glorification, right, of like, I have to be busy, I'm gonna be burnt out, I put everybody and everything else above me. And we even say things like, oh, I didn't get any sleep because I was working. And we glorify this aspect. And again, in certain contexts, it's not a bad thing, because it shows that we're passionate and we're driven. However, I think what we really need to pay attention to is when we start disappearing, right? When we lose ourselves and we think, wait a second, I'm tired. What about me? And then that leads to other concerns such as feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling neglected. And those are harder situations to come out of. And that's why we want to focus on self-compassion, because self-compassion is being kind to yourself. And whenever I hear resistance to that, they say that, no, it's too much. I can't. I often wonder, well, why not? And I think I'd turn this over to our participants. If you have an answer to that, like, do you find it easy to be self-compassionate or compassionate towards yourself? If so, that's great. And if not, I want to know, even if you just put it in the chat, what holds you back from being kind to yourself? So you can take your time answering.
Yes, I would really love to read the answers.
I had to learn, but it's not easy. It's not easy because, as you said, it's a learning process. We're unlearning the programming that we had, that we want to put other people first. We want to put them ahead of ourselves. But then we disappear. And I think this is the thing that I'm noticing a lot, that we confuse caring for others with prioritizing others. So we can still care for others while prioritizing ourselves.
I can read beautiful answers in the chat. We see them.
Yes.
We're programmed not to love ourselves. I think you're right, Noor. Yes. It's hard to be kind to myself, but so easy to be kind to others. Yeah, I think because of the upbringing. Now Dr. Aisha is going to highlight the matter even to have a more clear vision.
Oh, this last one is quite a good one. I find it really difficult. It feels like I'm allowing yourself to be lazy or unproductive, even when I'm at the end of my rope. So there's a lot of this pressure that comes as well, that, wait a second, again, if I'm nice to myself, am I being lazy? Am I being too soft? Because I think it'd be interesting to know how many people feel that they can work best under pressure. So I often hear this, that, no, I work best under pressure. That's why I procrastinate. I leave things until the last minute. But I think it's a little bit of a false idea. We just think that we have to work in this manner, that I have to really push myself and be hard on myself in order to be productive. Again, there's a time and place for everything. Sometimes that works. But I'm so curious to know that, what if we changed the negative talk that we have for ourselves and we make it something positive? For example, if you make a mistake, right? If you make a mistake in something, if you can relate, maybe you can raise your hand or, put an emoji or something and say that you think I'm a failure, right? That one mistake equals an entire failure, right? We just overgeneralize this. I see a few hands that are coming up with that you can relate. So it's okay to make mistakes, but we don't want to be hard on ourselves for making those mistakes. We want to come from a source of kindness and softness so that we can grow.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me, the self-help personas on social media, I mean, they are always pushing to be the best of the best. And bearing in mind, I'm sure that they are not doing this themselves. I'm sure that they have somehow self-compassion in a way, but they always promote that we need to work hard, and this is unhealthy. And I always ask my followers not to follow these I don't want to say stupid instructions, but they are inconsiderate advice, because you are putting down the person without knowing it.
I think that's really interesting, because the way we interpret information that we receive, that has a big impact on us, right? It almost helps us decide what our behavior is. And that's when I'm actually going to bring the word self back into it. We have to put ourselves at the center of things, because this is our lives. It doesn't mean being self-centered, like that I'm being selfish, I'm not thinking of anyone, but I have to think and pay attention to what it is that I need to nurture myself so that I can nurture others, to grow and learn so that I can engage properly with others. Otherwise, again, I keep pushing myself to the back, and then suddenly I'm lost. And then there's this feeling of resentment that can sometimes build of, wait a second, I prioritized everybody else. What about me? And people might turn around and say, well, what about you? Why didn't you speak up for yourself? Right? So it can be a bit of a tangled web, I think.
Right. So tell us more about self-compassion.
All right. To do that, I'm actually going to share my screen.
Please.
I have a few things that I think it might help. Okay. All right. So just starting with a basic definition. Are you okay? Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. So very, very simply put, self-compassion is being kind to ourselves when we're struggling. Okay. So sometimes when we feel down, let's say there are people who just don't want to go to work. They're like, I feel tired, I'm burnt out. And then there's this guilty voice from behind that says, come on, you're being lazy. Get up. Why are you making such a big deal of this? That is definitely not self-compassion. So self-compassion is having a softer voice that, okay, I see that you're struggling, but let's try anyway. What can we do? This is the second question. What do we need to do to help us feel better and do better? Okay, does that mean you need a bit of extra rest? Does that mean you need to eat more nourishing foods, right? So see what you need to do for yourself to help you feel better. And then overall using an encouraging tone, right? So be kind to yourself. I often wonder when people say that, oh, I don't think I deserve kindness. But then we can't expect others to treat us kindly then, right? Like we have to start by being kind, and then we can receive it from others, right? And so we kind of asked this question already about this reluctance to put ourselves first. And as was mentioned, you know, there's the programming, what we've been taught when we're kids and you're playing with something and your cousin wants it, you're told, okay, give it to your cousin. Okay, we put ourselves at the back, right? Let others go first. We put ourselves at the back again. You know, so we keep going further and further back. And then suddenly when we are an adult and we're ready to, we want to engage, we don't know how. I saw that in the chat as well, that I want to be self-compassionate, but I don't know how. Yeah. So I wanted to share this quote and kind of get your input, what you think. There's only one cause of unhappiness, the false beliefs you have in your head. Beliefs so widespread, so commonly held that it never occurs to you to question them. Okay. So this is again that outside, you know, you mentioned the influencers, this outside narrative, the story that's being told to you. If you internalize them without believing them, but just thinking that, oh, I should do what these people say because they have, you know, 28,000 followers or whatever, it's very difficult to, again, figure out, well, where do I fit in this story? So I don't know, what do you think, and what do the participants think about this quote?
All right, so I think, you know, when you hear like an information, you know, and you hear it from so many people, and it is wrong, but because the people who are saying it are a lot, you think that it is right, which isn't. So that's why self-awareness comes in handy in these situations.
Absolutely.
So,
I love that phrase, self-awareness. Yeah.
let's see what the participants said.
Okay. Full screen, please. There you go. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry we are like bombarding you with questions, but this is really, really important. Zaina says that sometimes my reasons are very uncomplicated. It's because I am plain lazy. Now, what's the, there's a thin line between being lazy and being really tired. So how are we going to extinguish the difference?
That's a great question. And I'm actually going to maybe have you hold on for a few minutes, because we're going to get to this difference. Because sometimes you're right. Sometimes we're tired and we need to rest. And that is the self-compassionate thing to do, because you look at it logically. If you look at your calendar, you've been to meetings, you've been doing all of this work, you've been attending to family and friends, you're tired. And so actually you're not lazy, but as you said, like you actually need to rest. And that is the self-compassionate thing to do. But there is this fine line, and we're going to get to it in a little bit, about when do you push yourself? Is pushing yourself also an act of self-compassion? So we'll get to that. But before that, just kind of touching on what we talked about earlier, that when we keep pushing ourselves back, there are consequences. So if we neglect ourselves, first of all, there can be disappointment. And I see this quite a lot. People come in like mid-20s, 30s, and they say that, okay, I did everything that I was asked to do. I went to the school that my parents put me into. I studied subjects that my parents told me to do or family expected of me. And now I'm an independent, grown-up person, but I'm not happy. I'm not living the life that I wanted, because it can be scary to speak up for yourself, right? And say, actually, you know what? I don't want to study medicine. I want to study art. That's kind of like a common one that I hear. So an impact of neglecting yourself is feeling disappointed in the future. The other part is being exhausted, right? Always putting other people's needs above yours, which leaves you tired. How are you going to take care of yourself when you've already given to everybody else? And the third one, which is, pretty strong, is resentment, right? And that can be towards family, friends, kids even, right? That I put all of your needs first, and now I feel like my youth is gone, and I resent that. So I don't know, what do you think about these? Spot on.
They are very spot on.
I think sometimes it helps to see it, because we forget. Again, we go back to that, oh, I'm being selfish. But then you might also be disappointing yourself, becoming exhausted, and feeling resentment. And those are, I'm pretty sure none of us want to feel that. So this is where we're trying to find that balancing act. Particularly the last one. So resentment is resonating with people. I've seen many people end up creating long-term rifts with their close family members due to this. Yeah, again, and so the challenge is finding that balance, because we don't want it to be that, oh, I'm putting myself first and we don't even care about anybody else, because it's not that at all. We want to see how we can balance both at the same time. We're going to put ourselves up front and center so that we can bring everyone else with us, or those that we care about at least, right? Mentally and physically, absolutely. There are mental and physical effects. I'm wondering, how can I convince people around me who always know me as a happy and productive person that I'm really tired, not being lazy?
Oh, this is heartbreaking, Wallah.
Do you want to answer that? Do you want to give her some?
You should go ahead, please.
You know what? Maybe this is a bit controversial, but I would say rest, right? Put yourself first and let them understand that 1 or 2 days of rest does not mean that you've completely stopped all your responsibilities, you stopped engaging with them. It just means that you need a bit of time to reset. And sometimes, especially if we have been prioritizing other people for a really long time, and I'm talking about years, when you decide to change your behaviors and you think that, you know what, I'm going to take a bit more time for myself, I'm going to start showing myself some self-compassion, they're going to find it a little bit strange. You may get feedback from others saying, oh, you've changed, you're different. And that can feel a little bit unsettling, because it might make you question yourself that, wait, am I changing? Am I doing something bad? Or is this okay? But it's okay to take your time and sit with that feeling and allow yourself to adjust to your new practices, and then also allow others to catch up with yourself, with your new changes, right?
Yes, we need to change gradually. Especially when we are, as you said, people are used to us behaving this way for years and years. عبد الله, اكتب بالعربي وأنا راح أترجم. Someone would like to participate and he doesn't know English, so I'm going to translate.
No problem.
Yeah, I think we should start gradually. That's the key. And it is very hard to change your behavior, and very hard to make people adapt to the new you know.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort, but as you said, we need to make it one step at a time, and not to go all full on speed, you know.
Yeah. Yes, because we also don't want to overwhelm ourselves. And that's
Right.
something, even when I talk to people that I work with, and I mention self-care practices, and they come and say, oh, I researched self-care, and they talk about journaling and meditating and going for a walk, and like they list 7 or 8 things. But if you do all 7 or 8 things at once, you're going to be exhausted. That's not self-care. It's about choosing 1 or 2, letting it see, does it work for you, right? Not everything works for everyone. And then once you know that it works for you, you may want to add something else, right? So this is part of self-compassion, being patient with ourselves, right? So I kind of wanted to switch a little bit, or just go a little bit deeper into actually the components of self-compassion. So Kristin Neff is one of the lead researchers of self-compassion, and she's categorized the concept into these 3 units. Okay, so the first one is about looking, when we talk about ourselves and to ourselves, are we talking from a source of self-kindness or self-judgment? Okay, so judgment is negative, often untrue, and usually unhelpful, right? I'm such a lazy person, because I'm seeing the word lazy a lot. That's a judgment. So while we're talking, see how you can reframe that for yourself, right? I'm a bad person. I'm not worthy, right? I don't deserve this. These are judgments actually that we're making on ourselves and about ourselves. So we want to see, anytime you hear that negative self-talk come up, can you switch it to something that's kind, so that it's encouraging you to do better, right? And it's true. We're not making up a story. We're not taking one incident and expanding it, right? And that we motivate ourselves. Because I want you to just take one moment to think, if you're always telling yourself, I'm not worth it, I'm such a bad person, I really don't deserve happiness. I mean, even when I say it, and I know I'm just saying the words, I don't mean it, it feels heavy on my heart. But what if
you believe it? Sorry. You somehow believe it, even though you know it's not true.
Yes, you internalize it. But let's say we just change it a little bit and say that, okay, I'm gonna try to do a bit better. You know, I'm gonna just see what makes me feel happier. You don't have to switch completely 100%, but you can just add that little bit of tenderness to yourself, so that you feel that, okay, I'm not carrying this weight of negativity. I actually have some room to breathe and to grow, right? So that's component 1. The second component I found quite interesting, which is looking at common humanity versus isolation. I don't know about you, but I've definitely experienced this for myself, that when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling really stressed, I feel like nobody's going to understand me. Nobody gets what I'm going through, and I'm all alone in this, right? But Kristin Neff is telling us that we need to remember that suffering is universal. There is not a single person who does not suffer. This is not to minimize your suffering. It's just to remind you that you don't need to be hard on yourself when you're struggling, because everyone at some point has struggled as well. I'd like to hear from you. What do you think about this concept?
Well, the thing is that we are always blaming ourselves, especially when we are struggling and we think that we are, what's the word? Guilty of feeling the suffering and the pain and the agony. But when you become self-compassionate, I think you become more, more open to another ideas, which is the idea of it's normal and we can get through it, and it's just like a phase. So I think we should just change our mindsets.
Yes, definitely starts with that mindset shift that it's okay to go through this because it's part of being human. Struggling is part of being human. It has no impact on the kind of person you are, the qualities that you have as a person. And so that's when we want to feel that softness towards ourselves. And I think the last component is also really interesting, mindfulness versus over-identification. And I kind of hinted at this earlier. So over-identification is believing that that one mistake makes you a failure, or you take one incident and you really, really, really expand it and say that, no, this must be true. If you speak unkindly to somebody, because sometimes we do that, it's okay, right? We have self-compassion, we can do these things, but it doesn't make you a bad person forever. It just means that in that one incident, you lost your temper and you spoke rudely to somebody, right? So we want to bring in the mindfulness aspect, which is, let me just look at what I did in this moment and not take one incident and expand it to my whole life, right? Does that make sense?
It does. It does make so much sense. The thing is, we know it, but it's very hard sometimes to implement it.
Yes, like we'll know it now, and even like after the presentation is over, it's like, wait, we go back to our old habits, and that's okay. Self-compassion, right? We want to even be compassionate with ourselves with that. We can just choose one small thing that we want to shift and change, and we need to get used to that feeling, right? We need to get used to that feeling of, okay, I've been hard on myself for all these years. Let me see what it's like to be tender, okay? So Kirsten Neff, going back to her research, she talks about two different types of self-compassion. And the one that I think most people think about is called tender self-compassion. That's just the soft part, right? Okay, let's say my general routine is to wake up and go to the gym, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm a bit tired. Let me be kind to myself and sleep. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but just keep that example in mind as well. Okay, so we want to be gentle with ourselves. We don't want to force ourselves to do anything that makes us uncomfortable. So looking at the three components that I just talked about, tender self-compassion in the self-kindness aspect is comforting ourselves when we're struggling. When you've lost someone and you feel grief, right? This is something I can relate to very, very personally and strongly. Feel sad. It's okay. And others around you might not understand. A year or two later, people may ask you, you're still sad? It's okay. You can still be sad. This is your experience, right? So you want to be kind to yourself when you are struggling, okay? And then again, common humanity, remembering that this is something that is part of the human condition. We are going to suffer. And because we're going to suffer, we need to be kind to ourselves, because we don't want to add to that suffering by being mean. And finally, validating our pain. Okay, so saying that, okay, I don't want to push my sadness down. I don't want to ignore it. Doesn't work. Trust me, it doesn't work. It will come back. So just saying that right now I'm sad. Right now I'm angry. Right now I feel shame. These are strong emotions, and it's okay to feel it. But we want to do it without adding more pressure and criticism to ourselves. Yeah. What do you think? Tender self-compassion.
So we have to just be at peace with it and just acknowledge it. And then what? Will it, I don't think it's going to go away. Or does it?
The suffering?
Yeah.
No, suffering won't go away, but I think we learn how to manage it better. We learn how to live with it, right? But this will only come by being patient with ourselves. So again, if you take grief, for example, and you tell yourself, okay, it's been 3 months, get over it, right? It's not easy to just get over it like that, you know. But again, we can say that, all right, I feel like I want to move forward. What is the kind, supportive, comforting thing that I can do for myself to help me move forward, right? So we still want to keep moving. So we don't want to be stuck and just say, I'm going to feel sorry for myself forever, right? We don't want that. But we want to find out the comforting words that we can use to help us continue to live our lives, because our life doesn't stop. We experience all of this suffering while we go on day to day.
I agree. Speaking of mindfulness, my depression and my experience with depression, I used to fear the episode when it comes, you know. And then, of course, with therapy and self-awareness and mindfulness, I started to acknowledge it, and I just like have an idea of it as a person that is, and he is visiting me or she is visiting me, and it's just a period of time and it's going to go away. So I even sometimes talk to depression, and you know what, it helps, it really does.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I think that people can really benefit from hearing that, you know, I feel like this was a perfect example actually of self-compassion, that you didn't fight it. You knew it was coming, even though it was maybe scary. And even if you would like to push it away, right? But you know it's coming. So you might as well say, okay, come sit with me. But I don't want to make it worse for myself. I don't want to put more pressure and say, oh, come on, again, it's happening again. Why isn't it over yet? Because that doesn't help. It's not going to go away.
I try to push it down. I try to ignore it. I try to be like busy with something else. Doesn't work. Doesn't. You need to acknowledge it.
You need to acknowledge it. You need to sit with it and then be compassionate while you're experiencing it. So I wanted to try something a little bit different. I just want to take 2 minutes and do a little visualization, I hope, with everyone, if they don't mind. So this is called a self-compassion break, okay? Which means we're just going to pause and we're going to think about a situation. So, sorry, I'm reading down here. That's why I'm not looking up. So I want you to think about a situation in your life that's caused you a bit of stress, but not too much stress, right? We want to keep something that's a little bit uncomfortable, but not very triggering or activating. Yeah. And I want you to think about that issue. What were you feeling? Where were you? How did it feel in your body? Right. And if you're starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable, then it's okay. Just notice. Maybe your shoulders are getting a bit tense or your heart is racing just a little bit. And now I want you to put both hands over your heart. So your right hand over your heart and then your left hand over your right hand. Okay, and you can close your eyes. I just want you to like connect with yourself. And think about that moment and tell yourself that this is a moment of suffering. This was a difficult moment for me. And this was really painful for me to go through. I understand that suffering is part of life. This is how it must feel when others suffer as well. They feel this way. Now that I know that others feel this way too, let me offer myself some kindness. This was such a difficult thing for me, was uncomfortable. but let me be kind to myself so that I can do what I need to get through it. Let's just take 15, 20 seconds to sit with that. And then, I don't know, I'd like to see in the chat maybe, or hear from people, like, how did that feel for you?
If we only do that more often.
Indeed. So this was a little bit rushed, of course, because I wanted everyone to just try it. But this, sometimes it's all that it takes, is that when you find yourself, even when you find yourself stuck in traffic and you're getting frustrated, right? Like, oh, I need to get to work. I need to go there on time and I'm stuck and I don't know when. And you start to feel that, okay, I'm getting agitated. I'm getting a bit angry. Okay, if you're driving, don't put your hands on your heart, but you can think to yourself that, okay, take a deep breath and say, okay, may I be kind to myself? Because you know that the agitation will not get you there any faster, right? May I be kind to myself? There are other people who are struggling with this as well. What do I need to do to make this moment a little bit easier for myself? And sometimes that's listening to some calming music. Sometimes that's just paying attention, enjoying, being grateful that you have a car to get around in. You know, we shift our mindset to see what little bit of kindness, this is the self-compassion part. What little bit of kindness can I take on right now so that I can get through this difficult time? Yeah. Let's see, I'm just reading. Oh, I see somebody cried. I hope they were relieving tears. Thank you for sharing that. Felt like I was giving myself a break from reality. Yes, just sitting with yourself, but this is your reality, right? We want to remember that this is actually our life. So why not be tender and self-compassionate? Thinking of how other people must feel this way too made it easier to be kind to myself for a moment. And we start with the moment, right? We start with the moment because, again, self-compassion is a broad concept, but this is particularly when we are struggling. Okay, when we're struggling. Okay, so I want to move on to this next component, and it's called fierce self-compassion. This is Kristin Neff's new research, and I love it partly because my organization is called She is Fierce, so that fits with me nicely, but also because I love the idea of being fierce, which means that we don't sit back, we move forward, right? So going back to the word lazy that came up a lot, right? Like if I'm kind to myself, or if I just listen to myself that I need rest, what if I'm just being lazy? Okay. The fierce self-compassion component is the part that tells us, we tell ourselves that, okay, be kind to yourself, but also do the things you need to do to live the life you want to live. Okay. This means that you need to be a bit brave. This means that you also need to take action, right? So I gave that small example of what if you wake up in the morning and you normally go to the gym, but this day you don't feel like going to the gym. Okay, some days you're literally really tired and you feel achy, so you don't go. That's a logical, self-compassionate thing to do. And other times when you're just feeling that little bit of quote unquote laziness, you still are self-compassionate towards yourself when you say, this is one of your goals, get up and go. You need to do the work, right? So showing up for yourself and doing the work that you need to do to live the life you want to live, that is also self-compassion. It's not just always sitting back and saying, okay, I'm going to just pamper myself, right? It's also taking action. So I just want to talk about these three things and then kind of hand it over to comments and feedback. So fierce self-compassion in terms of self-kindness means fiercely standing up and protecting ourselves. When someone crosses our boundaries, we need to speak up. This is self-compassion, right? When somebody violates our rights, we need to speak up because that is self-compassion, okay? And of course, only if this is safe and okay for us to do so. Sometimes we can't, and that's a whole other workshop that we can do in the future. Common humanity, remember that you're not alone, Okay, you're not alone in this struggle. And finally, mindfulness. This is a tough one with fierce self-compassion. Mindfulness means no longer avoiding. You need to face your hard truths, right? So if we keep saying that, okay, I'm going to do it later, I'm going to do it later, I'm going to do it later, we're not facing what we need to face. We need to do things now, be in the moment. What action do you need to take right now that will let you live the kind of life that you want to live, that will let you be the kind of person you want to be? Acting for your benefit is an act of self-compassion. So
I never thought of it this way, and I'm sure nobody did.
It's new for me too. It's new, like this angle, but
it's very logical, huh?
Like, I love it when I looked at, instead of me just saying, come on, just do the work in an aggressive tone, when I put the self-compassion angle to it, and I thought, okay, do the work because you deserve to succeed. The kindness, right? Suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to get up and do the work because I deserve to succeed. I felt so good, right? When you set your boundaries, a lot of times, and because boundaries is something I work a lot with, oh, what if I hurt their feelings? And what if, we, again, putting everyone else first. But when I say that, no, set your boundaries so that you can live completely and enjoy yourself, like live your full life so that you can, what's the word? Like graciously and welcome others into your life, then that's also self-compassion. You do things for yourself so that you can be there for others. So I'm just reading some of the comments. I never thought of changing the tone. I want to try this. Yes, please do. And I'd love to hear how that turns out. Can it be done too much, though, in a way that might impede our development? I'm not sure if you're referring to fierce self-compassion or tender self-compassion, but regardless, I think it's a good question, because what, like when you say impede our development, you actually know yourself best. What do you need to develop, right? Some of us need like very clear-cut directions that you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to progress, because that works for us. So you go that way. Others like a little bit more free-flowing. They don't want structure. They want freedom so that they can develop. So then they go that way. So you have to find that balance, and actually finding that balance is a form of self-compassion, right? You need to figure out what works for you so that you can move forward.
Right. Because of the lack of self-compassion that most of us have, we don't even have the time to sit with ourselves and just think of what we really are, what do we need, what is our, these things we do not think of because we are always busy thinking of other daily stuff. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, just once a week, I dedicate just 20 minutes of my time once a week to write down my thoughts not about anything else, not about the consequences or the whatever is happening around me. No, I'm going to write about myself, my feelings at the time being, and what do I want for the following week at least.
Yeah, so
do you do that, Aisha?
Yeah, I love that, because this is your self-compassion 20 minutes, right? And I see both of them, so that you're being tender, saying that, okay, I need this for myself. And then you're also being fierce because you're saying that, okay, I need to take action in the week ahead because I have things I want to accomplish for myself, right? And so it's almost like you set aside that time to formulate a plan, and then when you are self-compassionate, you show up for yourself and you follow your plan, right?
And I always remind myself of the feeling of satisfaction that always happens when I just cross a milestone.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And why not, right? We should celebrate the things that we accomplish. So this is, again, going back to understanding that this is our lives. Why not celebrate it? Why not show up for ourselves and enjoy the whole process? you know? So I wanted to take a fierce self-compassion break. All right, so similar thing, again, another minute and a half, but I'd like you to see how this can be a little bit different, how we shift from just taking a deep breath and sitting with our emotion and acknowledging it to seeing how can we now act on it? How do we make sure that we don't sit in something that becomes self-pity and we actually move towards, like the title of this workshop, self-empowerment, right? Let's do something for ourselves. So this time, I want you to, again, you can close your eyes, sit tall, roll your shoulders back so that your posture embodies strength and determination. Okay. And now, actually, sorry, I'm going to have you open your eyes. I want you to see this. Before we had both hands over the heart. This time, what I'd like you to do is I want you to make a fist with your right hand and put that strong fist, that fist of power over your heart. And then I'd like you to cover that fist with your left hand. This is the softness, okay? This is your fierce self-compassion. Fist over heart, left hand over your fist, okay? You can go back to closing your eyes. Okay, so go back to kind of thinking about yourself, your life, and maybe areas where you're stuck, where you feel like you want to move forward a little bit. Okay, so we're going to first think about mindfulness and say to yourself slowly and with conviction, I see clearly what is happening in my life. And I know what I want. I know what I need in order to get what I want. I know what I need to do in order to get what I want. To focus on common humanity, think to yourself, I am not alone. Others have experienced this as well. And from them, I can learn. From them, I can grow. And by standing up for myself and doing what I need to do, I can show others that it's possible too. And finally, focusing on self-kindness. I am strong enough to do this for myself. I deserve to do this for myself. This is due to me in my life, and I will go after it because this is what I need to live the life that I want. Okay, so when you're ready, you can come back. And I'd love to hear feedback. What was different between the first tender self-compassion and what was, and with the fierce self-compassion? How was that?
It is very touching. And I hope, if you don't mind, sharing both texts for the fierce and the other one, so that everyone can use it on a daily basis, weekly basis. I think it's beneficial for all of us.
Absolutely, I will. And of course, you can modify it for what you need. You know,
Right.
So if you are dealing with other people, reminding yourself that I deserve to be seen and I deserve to be heard. So you can modify it for, all your different goals. But this is the component that I really loved because I thought, first, we're gentle with ourselves. We're like, okay, let me be kind. And then we move, we take action. Okay, so it's not just about sitting back. We are active participants in our life, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. I see a lot of it was empowering. I feel courageous. I feel emotional. And emotions are good. Don't be afraid of your emotions. Be compassionate, right? Self-compassion. Feel it. So as we kind of get close to closing, but a few more things that I wanted to share. First of all, this quote by Kristen Neff herself. Unlike self-criticism, which asks if you're good enough, self-compassion asks what's good for you. Okay, so when we question ourselves, like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, I have a project. I'm not sure if I'm going to succeed. Maybe people won't like me. Maybe people will get offended, right? We question, we doubt the outcome. And that's a kind of also a form of self-criticism, because we wonder, am I good enough to be heard, to be seen, to be valued, right? So that's going to be pushed to the side. Self-compassion is saying, what do I need to do for myself? Okay. Remember, this is not selfish, right? This is what's good for you, what's good for me in my life and the kind of life that I want to live. So what do you think about this quote? How would you shift from self-criticism to self-compassion? You can even share one sentence that you often say to yourself that's a critical statement. And how would you flip that to something that's kinder?
We'll write something, let's see, by changing the message we used every day. That's nice, Lulu.
Oh, Louise said something very interesting. The only drawback is that I'm not completely sure what's good for me. That's very interesting. Would you like to comment on that?
That's another issue, to be honest, but you're right. It is very frustrating when you just don't know what's good for you. What do you want? And this, I think we should do another webinar about this particular topic.
Yeah. And I think for right now, Louise, what I would say is that while you try and figure that out, be compassionate with yourself. Be patient. This is actually a beautiful example of saying that I don't know what I want and what I need. So both hands on heart, may I be patient with myself while I figure this out. May I be kind, may I be gentle. And then when I figure things out, may I take action so that I can create that life that I deserve, right? So sometimes we don't know, and that's okay, because this is, again, an opportunity for criticism to rush in. Like, how come you don't know? What's going on with you? You should know by now. Negative, negative, negative. We want those to be gone. And just say, it's okay that you don't know. I want to know, so I'm going to figure things out. I'm going to do research. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to learn. And these are all actions that you can take so that you start moving in the direction that you want. Yeah. This is what we need instead of criticism. Yes. We're shifting the narrative. Absolutely. I like that. Spend more time discovering what works for you by trying different things. It's so easy to get stuck in our habits. I'm definitely someone, I love my routine and rituals, but I know that branching out can, you want to be curious about the world around you. And that can be a sense of relief to see what else is out there.
Right. I think most of us, if not all, are very happy and comfortable in our comfort zone. And the thing, I always think to myself, what if you just stepped out of your comfort zone? I'm sure that there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities, but again, the comfort zone is really hard to just break away from, which is
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I find it a very, very difficult thing to just get out of.
So sometimes comfort zone is okay, right? So we need to acknowledge that as well, that it's okay. You don't always have to. But I think when you start to feel that little bit of dissatisfaction, there's something inside that's like, I think I want something different for my life. I think I want something more. I need a change. That's when you want that fierce self-compassion, that I'm not feeling completely satisfied. So let me take action to figure out what's going to make me feel satisfied, right? And so this is kind of a great time to bring up that word self-empowerment, because we want to take this act of kindness as fuel for acting in ways that empower us. Okay, and this can come in so many different shapes and sizes. Like, it can be about being more proactive at work. It can be about quitting your job and following your passion, right? It can be about dealing with your family in a different way. I mean, so you have to actually sit with yourself first and think about that key question of, what is it that I want? What kind of life am I envisioning for myself? And then going back to what you said earlier, Sheikhah Majda, which is small steps, right? We don't just jump in like, oh, let me try something new. And then it becomes very overwhelming. And the self-critic comes in as well, saying, oh, you're a failure. You didn't do it right. So we pull back and we say, let me research. Let me ask people for their advice. And then let me try something in like a safe, comfortable environment. So it's a little bit risky, but it's also surrounded by safety. So you've got the fist as the risk and then the safety as the hand. So we want it to kind of work together.
I like that.
Let's see, self-motivation. Fear is oh yes, it is strong. It's difficult to step out. Try out other people's daily routine to see what I can do for myself. These are such great ideas. Oh, maybe we need to do another webinar on fear. Facing fear. Fear stops us.
Very important topic, to be honest.
Yeah. And so I kind of have one last slide that I want to leave you with. Remembering that you are important. Okay? You're here for a purpose, right? Your needs matter. So really take some time after today to think about, okay, what is it? What is it actually that I need for myself? And where is it being fulfilled? And where does it still need to be nurtured or cultivated? Okay. Remember that your goals are worth the effort. Okay. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard work. Life is hard. There's no denying this is common humanity, right? We're all in it together. But remember that your goals are worth the effort. The things that you decide that you want for yourself, doesn't matter what anybody else says. They're important, as are you. And then you need to do the hard work because you deserve the next one. You deserve to live a good life. You deserve that for yourself, right? Loving yourself allows you to increase your love for others. Okay, so take care of yourself so that you feel whole and nurtured. And then you can give that whole nurtured self to somebody else, right? You can share it with others. But if you feel torn and fragmented inside, then they're only getting the torn and fragmented part of you. So if you love them, you got to love yourself first. And that's kind of it for me. If anyone has questions, comments, I'd love to hear them.
Well, I have a question that came through Instagram. It says, in what ways can connecting with other people who share our struggles enhance our journey towards self-compassion?
Okay, so in what ways can connecting with other people help us?
Who share our same struggles.
Share our same struggles. So this can be a little bit of a slippery slope. I'll put that word out first, or that word of caution out first, because sometimes you can gather with people and you say that, oh, I'm sad. And they say, I'm sad too. Let's be sad together, you know?
Yeah.
So that it's okay to do that for some time. But then that's when you also want to find that fierce self-compassion and say, okay, well, we are here together. First of all, it's so comforting to know that I'm not alone. And second of all, we think, how can we move forward? Maybe that's a great opportunity to identify what individual strengths people have so that you can share your strengths with others and support one another to help yourself through that difficult time. So connecting with others, it's also about being very mindful, because even if others have experienced the same thing as you, remember that we're all very different in how we process things. So there's some people who think that, you know what, I have a very supportive environment outside. I have a lot of resources, and therefore my healing process is very different from people who may not have that type of support system or the same resources for them. So it's about listening and then taking what fits for you, right? And not thinking that someone else's path, just because they experienced exactly what you did, is going to be the same path for you. So there's also self-compassion, understanding yourself and what you need.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Do you guys have any questions for Dr. Aisha?
Yeah, I will definitely share the slides. They'll be sent to you, and I'll add the scripts for tender self-compassion break and
Right.
also fierce self-compassion.
Well, I think you covered it all. I think they are satisfied, and all of us, not just them, me included, we enjoyed it. We had a lot of information, and it was very pleasant, as usual, Dr. Aisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The pleasure was all mine. I'm so happy we could do this, and hopefully we'll do it again in the near future.
Definitely, we're going to do it again next time on fear.
Yeah, next time on fear. Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You. Bye.
Bye.